Let me share with you a few tips on being a successful coach this year. And so here are the top tips I want to pay attention to. The first thing I want you to really pay attention to is to actually be present in the room. If you're trying to be a successful coach, and I don't care about the niche you are serving, whether you're doing health coaching or life coaching or fitness coaching, whatever, you got to be present sometimes. And it also doesn't matter if you are having a coaching style primarily around online delivery or let's say face to face. Okay, sometimes it does help to actually be present in the room. So even if you have, let's say you have an online, online only delivery process, sometimes it might really help to actually have events where clients can see you. Okay, so in today's busy, pressurized world, it's so easy to be distracted. People are used to being instantly available and contactable. So, but when coaching, you want to really put distractions aside and focus on the other person. If you are doing, let's say, group coaching, you want to focus on all the members of your group because this is how you add value. People want to feel special at least for the 1 or 2 hours that you are actually dedicating to them. So that's really important from from an accountability point of view. The second tip I want to really use on being a successful coach, besides being present in the room, asking questions. It's not about really me actually instilling let's say guidance into my clients. Of course, they are waiting, they're looking up to me for guidance, but I first need to understand what their problems are, what their pain points are, before I can really concoct any suitable solution. So you want to ask questions, okay? So generally speaking, a pull style of coaching where the coach asks more questions instead of providing information is more effective. Because when it comes to coaching, you have push or pull, right? Push means you're giving everything, and you have pull. Now the only time where this may be different is when the coach has knowledge that the coachee doesn't have. Okay, if you have knowledge that the coachee doesn't have, and you know that you can really add value big time to your clients, then you might want to really have a strategy where you're getting information from them. Okay, so when this happens, it's actually acceptable. It's really acceptable to share the knowledge, provided it's relevant, credible, and provides a different perspective or reframing of the situation for the coachee or client to actually consider. So that's one thing that you have to really do on a regular basis to really understand how that works. The third tip I want you to really implement if you want to be a successful coach this year. Again, I want to insist on the fact that the niche you're in doesn't matter. You want to seek to understand, not to judge. When a client comes to you, when a coachee approaches you, when a coachee is looking for solutions, you first want to really make sure you listen, and then try to really understand what the coachee wants to convey to you. Okay, you want to seek to understand the other person instead of judging them. That's really important. So what happens here is that in reality, you want to be in let's say in a proactive manner, but a proactive manner that's really that's not pushy. Okay, behavior that implies a judgment from the coach is not usually effective. If your clients feel like you're judging them, if your clients think that you are like you have a holier than thou attitude, that could really backfire on your coaching business and also your coaching prospects. Okay, so giving negative feedback, such as you didn't do that well, is one such example. So much better to ask more probing questions, even using the word why. The key to using why effectively lies in the way that it is asked. Okay, so when children ask why, we see them as being curious. Coming from adults, especially adults in authority, it can be seen as judgmental. The person on the receiving end feels that they need to justify themselves. Okay, so it's really something to really pay attention to, and you have to do it in a very sustainable way, and also in a very I would say decent way, if you will. And so the curiosity is a key attribute for a coach, as indeed it's also essential for a salesperson. Okay, so staying with the not knowing is an quoted, let's say, adage in coaching. So the deeper you understand a person, the more likely you are to help them change their behavior. This is particularly important when it comes to personal development, okay, or even training or life coaching or even fitness coaching for that matter, okay. So you want to fully understand the participant and provide him or her with the support they need from you to get their potential, to their optimum potential. You also want to listen, so be present in the room, ask questions, you want to seek to understand, you want to really also listen, okay? Listen a lot, listen most of the time. There is no point asking questions if you don't listen to the answers. And the quality of listening is absolutely essential in coaching. So you really need to be able to listen to the whole person and not just the surface level noise. You also don't need to hang on to every single word. If you are a good coach, you want to know how to listen. You want to listen out for those moments, okay? The one phrase from the coachee that really strikes you. Listening to the first 100 words will also give you clues as to what is top of the brain for the coachee right now. If you want to be a successful coach, besides being present in the room, asking questions, seeking to understand, not judging, listening, you also want to focus on action. Action is really what differentiates great coaches from regular ones. Okay, you want to be on action. And that means you have to be proactive, not reactive. You have to constantly be agile. So that's operational agility. So effective coaching is it's about raising the coachee's awareness of themselves and their behavior, and actually enabling them to take responsibility for change. So it's one of those things where basically for change to happen in the coachee's life, for change to happen in the patient, in the not patient, in the client's life, they have to trigger things themselves. Because see, you are just a facilitator. You are just a conduit through which that change will happen. But the coachee or the clients will have to initiate, will have to trigger that change behavior himself or herself. Okay. Again, you're not doing it for them. You are just facilitating the whole thing. Okay. And so the most effective coaching sessions contain more proposals for action. And also the majority of those proposals come from the coachee himself or herself. That means what? That means that there is less information exchange and less feedback. So great coaches do a lot of seeking from the coachee, encouraging them to actually come up with ideas. So that's important. So if you want to really sort of facilitate effective coaching, you want to really put the coachee more in the driver's seat. So let me give you now the best practices. If you want to really drive success in your patient, but also in your team in the future, you want to understand that coaching a team is totally different from coaching, let's say, just the one client. If you're doing one-on-one, you don't have the same dynamics, if you will, than actually coaching a team. Okay, especially if you have to coach your own team. You got to know your employees. If you want to really sort of steer them towards success, you want to really know your employee, because see, if you're thinking about being a successful coach, you have to coach simultaneously your clients, but also your team members towards success. It's important when you actually want to be a successful coach to foster transparency. When you're doing group coaching, either for your own team or for external teams, transparency is really important, because transparency actually is going to foster accountability. If people see clearly what happens, if they see clearly who is accountable, who is actually responsible, they are able to get things done a lot faster. So being transparent with your employees helps to build trust, form relationships, and ensure that everyone is on the same page. And that's what you want. You want to have this sort of a holistic approach. You want to have people to be on the same page, that uniformity of objectives. So by starting with transparency at the top, you help to foster a company culture of open communication And so encourage transparency within your team by asking yourself those key questions. How do I frequently open myself up to others and allow them to get to know me? Have I clearly explained my values and motivations to my team members? Am I clear? Am I clear and consistent in the way I make choices and decisions? Do I tell team members when I make a mistake or discover a fault in my own knowledge base? So, like most things in a leadership role, you can't expect your team members to do anything you wouldn't do, right? So always lead by example. Always show the way, if you will. And collaboration is really key also when it comes to being a successful coach, and especially when you have to coach your own team or other teams. You have to understand that collaboration is quintessential because humans are generally competitive by nature. As such, competing within an office setting is often second nature. Okay. However, by discouraging unhealthy competition and encouraging collaboration and recognition of group achievements rather than individual success, you'll be able to foster a culture that not only thrives as a team, but one that also inspires members to rely on one another. And you want to have this sort of a collaborative nature, collaborative trends every now and then. If you want to be a successful coach across the board, it's important to create clear objectives and goals. It's one of those things where clarity of mind, clarity of purpose, clarity of goals can really go a long way. Okay, so clearly defining objectives and goals is virtually impossible without strategic planning. So after gathering your team, you want to start with big picture thinking and encourage members to discuss and brainstorm ways to meet longer term goals, right? Because you have goals for 3 months, maybe you have goals for 6 months, you have goals for 1 year, or even goals for 5 years or 10 years. So it's one of those things where if you have clarity around those goals, around the short term goals and the long term goals, they're a lot easier to achieve than if you were just trying to put something vague on those goals. Also, you want to celebrate success. I mean, your team is not just going to focus on quote unquote failures, right? Because you have goods and bads, you have pros and cons, you have successes and failures. And it's important to really take time to celebrate those successes so that your team knows that, hey, listen, you're not just there to highlight things they could do better, but you are there also to recognize there are certain things that they do well. Okay, so celebrating success is really key. You want to celebrate milestones. You want to celebrate benchmark goals. Okay, so if you want to keep your team on track, motivated, and inspired, you want to really celebrate those. Okay, celebrate those victories. So along with commemorating these achievements, make an effort to celebrate the individual successes of your team members, as well as those of the group. So highlighting everything from work anniversaries and personal achievements to professional gains and employee wins is actually a powerful tool for supporting individual and team motivation and morale. Also, you want to really build mutual trust. So if you want to be a successful coach, and if you want to coach your own team or external teams, build mutual trust. So at the root of all effective coaching relationships lies a foundation of balanced trust. While things like fostering transparency can help to establish this trust, you may also want to have an open door policy. Be clear, friendly, and non-judgmental in each coaching meeting, and make sure that you actually are showing employees that you care about them, consider them to be valuable members of the team, and have a keen interest in them and their success. You also want to understand that for you to really be a successful coach, you need to pave the way for success. You got to really show the GPS your team has to follow. You have to show the itinerary your team has to follow. So you can't expect your team to operate effectively without laying the groundwork for them to do so, right? I mean, if I'm not doing things myself, if I'm not really paving the way for success, if I'm not really living the success that I want to see myself, how can my team members do the same? So it's critical that my team have access to training, for instance, software, resources, strategies, materials, and anything else that they might need to be successful in their roles. And if something is lacking, I can't really blame them. So if something is lacking, I want to fill the gap as quickly as possible. And I also want to share constructive feedback. So if I want my team to be successful, or myself to be a successful coach, constructive feedback is really critical. It's one of those things where I'm not going to be overly critical. I'm not going to be overly judgmental. I'm going to be objective. I'm going to be unbiased. Okay. So, as one of the most critical aspects of coaching, especially employee coaching, feedback has the power to make or break the success of the team, especially from a long-term perspective. So, what have employees done well? What strategies haven't worked? What needs improvement? Okay. So, giving and receiving constructive feedback can be kind of tricky, especially if your employees are new, or if your employees are sort of like low entry level or intermediate level. Okay. So, remember to craft your message carefully, work to refine your feedback skills over time, and be open to feedback from others too, right? It's one of those things where when I say give feedback, it's not just about giving. It's also about receiving feedback from time to time. That will help you grow big time, especially when it comes to feedback. I will speak about feedback in the next session because it's an important element. If you think about being a successful coach for your team, or for internal team, in-house teams, or external teams, feedback is quite essential. Speaking of feedback, you also want to ask for feedback, okay? And I think I just said this to you a few seconds ago. It's not just about you being a driver's seat and really giving feedback galore. I mean, giving feedback galore is kind of cool, but as long as those feedback sessions, or those quote unquote comments are constructive, that's really good. So the best and most effective coaches are also coachable, right? So be a coach who is coachable. During meetings and one-on-one sessions with employees, ask for ways you can improve in your role as coach to help your employees reach the performance and behavioral goals that you have set together, right? It's one of those things where by empowering your employees, you're able to get things done a lot faster. And now, giving and receiving constructive feedback, I've said this before, can be tricky. Okay, so always craft your message carefully. And so, one thing I want to say also is that during the discussion with your employees, you want to keep an open mind, remain flexible, and maintain perspective. Always, no employee is attacking you personally, they're just giving you a feedback on the work or the proposal that you have. Okay. And finally, you also want to manage inter-team disputes. So being a successful coach sometimes means that you have to take care of the quote unquote, inter-team disputes. And don't say those disputes are petty. Don't say those disputes are like childish disputes. No, those are important. Those actually form that they can break or make a good foundation for your team. So despite your efforts to build a unified, communicative team, there will inevitably be conflicts among your team members. That's just human nature. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way we are actually raised. Humans are competitive. I said this before. So whether it's an issue of certain employees not pulling their weight, or a case of minor office bullying, it's actually your responsibility to keep an eye out for interpersonal upheaval within your team. Okay, that's important from a credibility point of view, but also from an accountability point of view. So make an effort to fully understand these issues, and then implement a procedure for dealing with and avoiding these kinds of problems in the future. Especially if you have multiple let's say audiences, multiple employees to actually address. So now, team coaching is important for several reasons, because you are able to reduce workplace conflict, right? So that can really help you get things done. You can ensure everyone is heard, so everyone can really add value big time. You can build trust, which is really critical from an accountability point of view, and you can increase also engagement. So team coaching facilitates actually let's say engagement and employee participation, That way, each member can actually contribute to your organization. In closing, today's conversation, I explained to you how to be a successful coach. And so I give you the top tips and the best practices for team coaching. And now the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.